Peace everyone, Unmask here, and welcome back to another colored pencil project. Today we're going to be starting a new one, and this is going to be very difficult if you follow along the way that I'm going to do it. Because for this project we are only going to be using the 12 pack of Polychromos pencils. Now of course you can do this project with any number of pencils that you want, but I'm going to be demonstrating the possibilities of just using the 12 pack, and as you can see, we 12 colors really isn't a lot when you think about them individually, but when you think of the capabilities of mixing the 12 colors, you really have an infinite number of colors. As long as you have the black and white and at least the primary colors, you can go very far. What we're going to be focusing on today is the top part of the background. So there's sort of two portions of the background for this particular project. The first part is the sky, and then the second part is the ground in the background. And the overall characteristic of the background is that it is blurry, which makes it even more difficult. Blurry backgrounds are hard to do with colored pencils, and on top of that we'll just be using the 12 pack of Polychromos, so there's going to be some mixing strategies that we're going to have to use. There's no easy way around it. And yeah, so what I'm doing now is making sure I get the lightest possible graphite line from the outline of Thor here. That way, when I bring the colors in closer to him, there won't be any graphite to really contaminate our colors. There's a few bright areas down here around his hand, so I don't need to get all of the outlines erased today, because like I said, we're just going to focus on the top part, which is still a pretty large area, so it's going to be quite difficult, but we'll get it done, and I'll talk you through the strategy. Hey there, Diane, Victor, Claire, Cherry, Linda, Rain, Stephanie. Good to see all of you. Hope you're having a good day so far. This is a very important part of the process here, making sure where you're going to be coloring, the graphite isn't heavy. You want to basically eliminate it completely. Really don't want any contamination of my colors. All right. Think that does it. Oh, there's this line here I can also get rid of. There we go. All right, good to go on that. Now the first part is to use white, which may sound a little counterintuitive, but essentially because we're stuck with these colors, the background is the sky part anyway. There's actually a lot of white in the sky. And the other colors, there's a little bit of yellow, a little bit of orange, a touch of purple, and a touch of red sort of colors coming into the sky. And the problem is we don't have any of those colors. We have red, we have yellow, we have blue and purple, but they're all very saturated and very dark in comparison to the value that we need for the sky. So what we need to do is we need to sort of blunt those colors by applying a layer of white to the sky, so that when we grab those colors and we start applying them, they won't lay down on the paper as well as they would if they were just straight onto the paper. The other thing you got to make sure you do with the white pencil before you use it, make sure the tip of the pencil is not contaminated with any other color, because that can mess up your day real quick. Well, the Polychromos, they are very translucent pencils, but that's not necessarily what makes them difficult to work with. I would say their translucency allows you to be a bit more flexible with only using 12 of them. So if you're limiting yourself with the 12 pack like I am, then the translucency is actually a benefit to some degree because it allows a smoother combination of colors in the mixing process. Whereas if you think of the heavier Prismacolor, that waxiness of it can actually get in the way of smooth layers. It's very hard to see where I've colored at all. There's just a very subtle change in the texture of the paper that I can see. So I can actually still manage to tell where I've colored and where I haven't, but it's minimal at the best. Just a quick reminder to everybody, I did post in the Facebook group that the critique live stream will happen this Friday. And as I mentioned yesterday, the critique stream will be 1 hour later than normal. Um, but it will still be on Friday. I'll probably schedule that stream out Thursday just so everybody can see it. And for those of you in the art club, monthly mastery number 13 will be available tomorrow once I record the video explaining what you need to do, since we'll be working with color this year for the monthly masteries. Also, welcome to all of the new art club members. It's been a good week. A lot of new members joining, so I appreciate that. And if you're new to the live stream, feel free to introduce yourself. If you're new to the art club, hopefully you can catch one of the streams live if you're watching this later on. But yeah. The other thing that I'm going to be doing that is slightly different than when I usually work with Prismacolor is that I will not be blending with solvent at all for this project. Those of you that have been around long enough to have done the other Polychromos projects, I stick to dry blending with a blending stump. So I have a fresh, clean blending stump ready to go to do the blending. As soon as I get a nice layer of white into the background here, or into the sky rather, and then we can start gradually applying some color very carefully, and then you'll start to see the blending process at that point. And I think maybe I'll start on the left side with the color, but I sort of just started where my hand was at. You're trying this project on pastel mat first. Oh, Rain, the paper that I am using is the Lennox 100 paper. I think, Linda, it might have been you that asked um, before, a few weeks ago when I posted this project before the long break, if I was going to use the paper that I listed. I can't remember the paper that I listed, um, but I don't remember the last time I used the Lennox 100 paper. So I ended up grabbing that for this project, but I can tell you that the Lennox 100 paper is very similar to the Stonehenge vellum, and that's part of the reason that I chose it because they're almost indistinguishable. The paper choice, I would definitely stick to a rougher paper. So like this Lennox 100 or the Stonehenge vellum or any vellum textured paper is going to be a good choice when it comes to working with the Polychromos. I find that they are so much more enjoyable on paper that has a little bit more tooth to it. And this paper, this Lennox 100 paper has, like when you look at it from an angle, it has a very obvious paper texture to it that you can see really well. So I think that it just makes sense to use a paper like this. And if you've never tried the Lennox 100 paper, it's not my favorite paper. I can't buy my favorite paper anymore, unfortunately. But it's good. It's definitely a good paper. I'd give it a solid 8.5 out of 10 in my own personal rating. But I still have yet to find my paper or my paper replacement since I can't buy the paper that I absolutely loved anymore. I actually have like 3 or maybe 4 sheets left of my paper that I really like, which is the gummed pad of the Strathmore or the Stonehenge vellum. I don't know what happened to the paper. Actually, I think I have it right here. Yeah, it's this paper here. So if you've ever wondered the paper that I'm always talking about as my favorite paper, this is the paper. It's this exact pad. So it's the Stonehenge 100% cotton vellum 250 GSM. Let's see, I actually have 6 pieces left, but I cannot find that exact paper anywhere. So, okie dokie. The background is lightly filled in with the white. Obviously, you guys probably can't see the difference, but I actually can. And now it's time to start adding some color. So I'm going to start with yellow. There's only one yellow in the pack, so it's the 107. It's the cadmium yellow. And I'm going to just very, very lightly begin introducing this yellow. Because the background or the sky, I'm specifically working on the sky. The colors are very light, so don't expect huge changes today in the overall picture because the sky is very, very light in value. Essentially, just like a little bit of the top part of the clouds has some of that purple and some of that red. Oh, again, make sure you check the tips of your pencils because this one has a little bit of orange on it. Because I'm always mixing I'm always mixing these pencils. It's very easy to for them to get contaminated. I do very much like the paint on paper. Yeah, the paint on paper is really fun paper to work on. I wouldn't describe it as my favorite paper, but still a very good paper. So this is essentially going to be the strategy here. Working right over top of the white, we can see that, well, maybe you can start to see the yellow coming in. The yellow is going to be less vibrant because of that initial layer of the white, which is why I started with the white on the entirety of the background. And I'll apply more white as well to smooth things out. Oh, hey there, Alicia. I'm not sure why you made a crying face there, but um, the holiday break was very relaxing. Yeah, it was very relaxing. Hopefully, it was relaxing for everybody. My wife and mother-in-law made so much food. We're still working on the leftovers. Like, there's still so much leftovers. Hopefully, everybody had some tasty food because I know I had a ton. I had way too much food. Way too much food. I feel like I need to go to the gym twice a day now to make up for it. Oh, you didn't miss any live streams because I didn't live stream. I took a break too. Everybody took the last couple weeks off, including myself. I took time off. Um, I didn't initially plan for that, but that's what I did. Haven't heard much about Udon. Udon's doing good. He scared me a little bit this morning because he was sleeping with his tail out of his cave. Like his tail, well, technically his tail's only, I don't know, about 5 or 6 centimeters long, but it was his tail plus a good portion of his back body. And I'd say about 10, 12 centimeters of his body was out of his cave, sort of wrapped around a little bit. And I just thought it was kind of funny because I assumed he was sleeping. And I went to the kitchen and made breakfast. I came back and it was still out. And I was like, I tapped on his enclosure. By the way, I'm going to use the dark cadmium orange now. Start adding some of the orange into the sky. So, anyways, I come back. He's still hanging out a little bit, which is it's abnormal. To, so I tapped on his enclosure to see if he would move, and he didn't move. Like he didn't move at all. Usually, if he gets a little bit spooked, you can see him puff up because he takes like a deep breath and he makes himself bigger, but he didn't move at all. And so I tapped a little bit harder and he still didn't move, like at all. And then I opened his enclosure door. And usually, when I open his enclosure door, he feels the vibration. He knows that something's like coming in and he'll get a little spooked or whatnot. He still didn't move at all. So I was starting to like worry a bit. And then I actually tapped on his back and he still didn't move. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I pulled up his cave to reveal him and I was like shoving him. And he was not moving. He was just completely still. It was like I wasn't even doing that because usually even if he's sleeping, like he'll sort of like wiggle real slow and then start flicking his tongue and then trying to get away from me. That's usually his procedure. But he didn't move. And so I'm like, oh my goodness. And so I started picking him up. I'm like, Udon, are you okay? He must have been like doing something last night because he was just dead to the world, sleeping. Um eventually eventually he started wiggling around and flicking his tongue and I was just so spooked because I thought he was no longer with us. I was so scared because I've never seen him so still while I'm poking him and stuff. And yeah, eventually I picked him up and held him for a little bit and made sure that he was okay. I checked to make sure that there was nothing physically wrong with him anywhere. And he was totally fine. I guess he was just so unconscious that he just didn't want to move. I don't know. But eventually I laid him down and he just sort of laid there and he didn't move. Like usually when I lay him back down, he'll slither back into his little cave or whatever. And he just sort of laid there and didn't go anywhere. And I was like, Udon, are you okay? And then he drank some water and then he slithered back in his cave and he's probably sound asleep now again. He probably real grumpy that I woke him up. But yeah, other than that, he's doing really good. Um, oh, hey there, Dale. Dale, good to see you. Yeah, I'm planning to do a fast probably at the end of the month. I'm trying to gain a little bit of weight this year anyway, so it's not a huge deal that I ate so much, but I feel like I just need to sort of get back on my routine, especially like my normal eating routine, and I think a nice 4 or 5 day fast will be a good way to just reset my metabolism. Yeah, if you're buffering, it's on you right now. My connection is still good. Hopefully today we won't have any connection issues. As brief as it was yesterday, it is rather annoying. I have extremely good internet, like fiber optic internet. It's ridiculously fast. And I even have like the upgraded version for faster upload since I do stream. Um, but for whatever reason, it's just weird sometimes. All right, let's add a little bit of orange over here now. Now the orange is going to transition into a bit of red and a bit of blue and purple. I'm going to I'm going to include blue into the sky just a little bit, even though there's not really any blue in the sky. It more or less just goes from like a yellow gray to an orange pink into a subtle purple, more like a clay rose kind of color. So it actually skips blue entirely. But I think that a small additional touch of blue will help that transition into the purple. Since we really only have one purple, which is the magenta color, which is a bit on the red side. And so just getting a little bit of the uh, more bluish purple color, I think, will be the way to go here. My upstairs neighbor is doing something. I don't know what that machine is, but it's a it sounds like a broken washing machine. Hopefully the microphone won't pick it up though. All right, let's I'm gonna transition into the red a little bit. So this is the only red that we have. This is what, permanent red? No, this is deep scarlet red. So I'll just introduce a bit of red. Now these colors will change when I begin blending. So take your time with the application, of course. Don't go too bold. It's better to just sort of play it safe. Just play it safe, and don't go too heavy with the colors because obviously the sky is very light. It's rather deceiving what we're doing right now, partially because you're seeing what I'm doing on camera and it's not quite showing up. Um, it's not showing up too badly based on what I can see, but obviously it's not showing up as much as it is in person. The colors are just really, really light for right now. Once we get to the ground, the sky will have a little bit more context to it, but we just kind of have to wait. Who was it that who was it that was going to do it on pastel matte? Cherry? Yeah, Cherry. Are you doing this project on pastel matte with the Polychromos? I just feel like it's important for me to mention I don't know how well dry blending on pastel matte is going to work out. So you may need to continue blending with solvent if you're going to use a paper as rough as pastel matte. I've never personally I've never tried dry blending on pastel mat with Polychromos. The only projects I've only done a few projects on pastel mat with colored pencils, and I do all of those projects with blending with solvent. Let's see, maybe, yeah, maybe I should use this blue. Now we actually have two choices for blue, but I'm gonna opt for the lighter blue, the light ultramarine. I think that this makes a little bit more sense, just because it's a lighter color. The other one, the other one's a bit warmer and more vibrant, but I'm gonna just go with this one. And I'm gonna just very lightly go over some of the areas where I applied the red. Very, very lightly. Oh, you know what? I totally forgot about this area down here. That's okay, I'll come back to it. Yeah, indeed it will be an experiment. You'll have to let us know how that works out, because I'm quite curious myself, having never done it before. You may not even have to blend if you just apply enough layers. The other benefit, the other benefit that you're going to have working on a surface like pastel matte is that you're going to have a lot of leeway to apply white over your colors. So that's something to keep in mind. You have a little bit of a safety net where one if you happen to go a little too dark in some of your sky area, the white will cover your color and lighten it. Whereas if you're using a paper like this, you don't the white will lighten it a little bit, but not nearly to the degree it will lighten on a paper like pastel matte, because that surface will really grind up the pencil and allow it to uh, layer that white pigment over top of everything and have a pretty significant ability to cover the color, or to at the very least lighten it quite a bit. I'm going to do a little bit of this blue kind of throughout this part of the sky. This part of the sky has a bit of a grayish tone to it. So I think with this light blue, the white, I could potentially use the black. I don't know if I'll risk that, but I want to have a little bit of value to this part of the sky, because the white really is just right here. That's the white part of the sky. And then everything else is that light yellow, that light peach and orange and purple and gray. See, I'm going to use a little bit of that magenta color now, just up through here. And yeah, I'll darken this part down here a bit as well. And then up here. I considered using tape to create the border, but at the end of the day, I just decided not to. All right, let me see. Uh, can I use this black and get away with it? You know, I think what I'm going to do instead. So we know that the complement to blue is orange, and when you mix orange and blue, you're going to get sort of a brownish color. I'm going to actually use the burnt ochre uh, in this area instead of the black to tone down the blue, and then with the combination of the white, it should become a bit more of a grayish. So it won't be so much blue, it won't be so much ochre. The ochre and blue will sort of cancel each other out a little bit. And I think with the light brownish tone of these colors mixing together plus white will be a bit more of a warm gray, which is what I'm going to aim for this part of the sky, since I don't want it to be white. I don't want it to be blue. I don't want it to be yellow. So I'm just going to sort of lightly mix these colors together in combination with the white. Yeah, that comes off as just like a warm gray, very subtle warm gray. Yeah, lurk away. Yeah, you're more than welcome to lurk. I'm gonna actually let's test out the blending. So I'm gonna grab my pencil blender here, my paper blender, I mean. And I'm gonna just do very light circles with the blender. This is going to get rid of the graininess of the pencils. So this will get rid of the grainy texture. And then maybe do another layer with the white, depending on how it looks, if I need to. Just like with the pencils, you know, you don't want to press real hard with the blender for the same exact reasons you don't want to press real hard with the pencils. Oh, hey there, John. Yeah, I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good New Year's and everything. Why is your name Magenta? I don't get it. Did I miss a joke somewhere? I don't see your name as Magenta either. What are you up to, by the way, John? On your screen, everybody's name is a different color. That's super weird. I never heard of that before. Grinding away at the gym, making some good gains. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah, I'm gonna do a strength test this week at the gym and see how far I can get this year. I haven't done a strength test yet. 7 months in. Oh, hey there, Margaret. Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw that you joined. I'm glad you're able to come to the stream and say hello. I'm always open for questions, so that's the benefit of the live stream is that you can just ask your questions and I can answer in real time. But I appreciate it, you joining. The new channel's doing good. I don't promote the new channel or anything like that, but it's going as well as I could imagine. I suppose I didn't really have any expectations or anything. I'm just doing what I do. That's all. The paper blender works really well on pastel mat. That's good to know. Maybe in the future I will I'll have to give that a test run of my own. That's rather informative to know because I actually would have expected the opposite. I wouldn't have expected the paper blender to work that well with pastel mat simply due to the large degree of texture in comparison to this paper. Okay, John. Well, I appreciate you stopping by and saying hello. I always appreciate that. I hope you have a fantastic day. Don't grind too hard, but have a good day. Yeah, I would have expected you to come back and say that the paper blender doesn't work all that well with the pastel mat. Because with the Polychromos, if you use a paper that's too smooth, like the Stonehenge Bristol, like any Bristol or plate paper, I don't really like to use the Polychromos on those papers. In fact, that's why I didn't like Polychromos colored pencils for nearly 3 to 4 years, because I always liked the Prismacolors on the Bristol smooth paper. And when I would try the Polychromos on the Bristol smooth paper, or any smoother paper, I couldn't understand why anybody liked the pencils because they worked so poorly on those papers. But then when I used them on a rougher paper, which I was a little skeptical about because when it comes to oil painting, which is sort of the medium I was working with mostly before I got into colored pencils. My favorite thing about the surfaces that I worked on with oil paint was that I preferred wood panel. I liked really smooth surfaces. And I've always had a preference towards smooth surfaces because I just assumed that they would look smoother, you know? And so when I started learning colored pencils and all of that, I didn't put much thought into my paper, and I gravitated towards smoother papers because I just preferred a smoother texture overall of my artwork, whether it was oil painting or anything. And it wasn't after many years that I found that I actually have a preference for the slightly rougher vellum papers with colored pencils in spite of the texture. I actually the pencils just gravitate towards that paper more, in my opinion. And the smoothness comes from the layering and not the actual texture of the paper. And and so I thought that if you would go too rough with the paper, it would sort of be the opposite of the too smooth. So I thought it would have to be somewhere in the middle. So that's quite interesting to find that the pastel matte also still blends nicely dry with the polychromos. Found out you need a lot of work on perspective. Well, Margaret, do you prefer Margaret or Marge? First off, since you mentioned you went by Marge in the Discord. Let me know which name you prefer. But I have a perspective tutorial in the art club. I'm not sure if you saw it, but if you use the search function on the tutorials page and you select miscellaneous, you should see it there. You'll see it. I think I can't remember if I just broke 1 point and 2 point perspective, or I have both 1 point and 2 point perspective in the same project. But for sure, I covered perspective, so you'll be able to find that project, and hopefully that will help you learn perspective a little bit better. And then we also did a project using, I showed you how to use perspective to create a project or to create a scene. And we utilized, we ended up utilizing 1 point perspective, I think, if I remember correctly, for that project that I did for my dad. I just need to get a piece of tissue. So if you get a lot of colors on your blending stump, just take a piece of tissue, almost like you're sharpening a pencil, and just roll it in there. That way you don't unnecessarily contaminate some of the lighter colors. Oh, did the stream drop or something? Was there issues with the stream? I don't have any notifications. I mean, I hope there was no issues. Oh, okay. Right. That's good. Good, good, good. Almost done with the sky. I have to admit, I sort of overestimated the difficulty for the sky here. So I hope everybody's sky is going well. I'm probably a little bit ahead of everybody, if I had to guess, based off of experience. I'd say that I'm a bit closer to being done than most of you all are. But the colors, I like the colors a lot, and smoothing it out here is going really well. I really anticipated struggling with this part. Um, I really did. I really anticipated struggling here, but the sky is just working. It's just working. I think that that initial layer of white really is the key to keeping these colors from being too saturated and too bold. And I think that made the biggest difference. It's definitely a technique that I will remember because I've actually never tried doing that before. I never tried just whiting out the paper with the white pencil before applying the colors. And it is working out really well in my favor. Oh yeah, that's true, Linda. Most of you do just hang out and watch, and then rewatch later to do yours. That's probably the best way to do it, truthfully, because I can't tell you how many times I've gone through like a section of a project and then sort of reflected back at how I started it and then give you advice on what you may want to do instead. Because as often as I try to proceed in the most direct and simple way, you know, sometimes it ends up being harder than what it needs to be. But in this case, it just worked. I'm going to use a little bit of yellow and orange down here by the hand. I forgot a touch of yellow and orange here. This transitioned into like a building or something. I don't know. He's standing up on a rock. I don't know if you guys saw this movie. It wasn't amazing, but um, there's like a building and a tree, and then like just a bunch of rocks. So I'm separating the middle ground in the foreground from the sky. So we're doing those parts separately. I think that's good. Just blend this out. White charcoal pencil works as a base too. I have never mixed charcoal with colored pencils. I've actually never used a white charcoal pencil before. I've done maybe two charcoal drawings ever. But yeah, I don't have very much experience with charcoal. Okay. Give me 1 second to sharpen this pencil. All right. Yeah, I was just sharpening the white pencil. Again, making sure the tip of it is clean. And I'm just going to come through here and smooth out everything. And this should give me the final result that I was aiming for. The pencils themselves always also work really well as a blender. So just going to very, very lightly sort of just cover everything once more with the white. Saw the movie, only liked the ending. I'm trying to think of how it ended. Don't say how it ended, just in case anybody hasn't seen it. I'm just trying to rack my brain on how it ended. Oh, right, right, right. Yeah, okay, yeah. The ending was pretty good. It was a little odd, um, and it was also what's the word I'm looking for? It happened a little too fast. Like it didn't really feel practical for the ending, but it was fine. Yeah, it was a pretty good ending. I mean, it was probably the best way they could have ended the movie, but I felt like they didn't build up to it enough. But as far as a Thor movie, it wasn't great. It really wasn't that great. I mean, even Chris Hemsworth was not particularly fond of his own movie. So I think that says a lot. He still did his thing, but I think when the lead actor even feels like a sidekick in his own movie, you probably messed it up. Yeah, it was a little bit too silly, I agree. I think the problem with the last few Marvel movies is that they they sort of copied the tone of Guardians of the Galaxy a little bit too much. I think Guardians of the Galaxy is definitely one of the funniest uh, Marvel movies. Both one and two. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume Two was not great. I think like the story was pretty dumb, but you know, it's still funny. It still has its like classic comedy moments. Um, but the story was just a lot worse than the first one. But the goofiness, the goofy nature of it is what really makes that stand out and enjoyable to watch, regardless of how bad the story is. And I feel like because of the comedic success of Guardians of the Galaxy, they started interjecting that comedic nature into other Marvel movies like Black Panther and Thor. And the problem is it's just a mishmash of like tone. And it just doesn't work well. Like if you have a serious movie and then you randomly sprinkle in Guardians of the Galaxy level humor, it breaks the illusion and it feels weird and forced, and it's not funny. It's just awkward and bad. Like if Chris Pratt isn't in the scenes, then you can't have Guardians of the Galaxy type of humor. Like it just doesn't work. Chris Pratt has to be in the scene. Like all of the scenes where Thor is interacting with Star Lord, that comedy works perfectly. But as soon as Thor is on his own in his own movie, then you need to have the Thor comedy. The Thor comedy is different than the Chris Pratt Guardians of the Galaxy comedy. I really like this guy, by the way. I'm so pleased at how this sky came out. I really am. And I feel like it came together so easy. So much easier than I anticipated. I really expected to be streaming for like 5 hours working on this sky. But it really did come together so quickly. Hopefully that same momentum will follow through with the foreground. The foreground's obviously far more complex, but at the end of the day, the process is going to be about the same. Yeah, I saw Black Adam. That movie was oh, that movie was so bad. I mean, it wasn't like Sonic 2 bad, but it was pretty bad. It was the tone of that movie was all over the place. It was like they wanted to do a little bit of every Marvel type movie from like the beginning, since like Iron Man 1 or something. The tone of that movie was absolutely all over the place. The length of that movie, oh my gosh, why was that movie so unbelievably long? It was so unnecessarily long, and it had so many like side parts to the story. It was just ridiculous. All right. This the sky is done for now. I think if it needs any touch up, like once we put in the middle ground and the foreground, that's what we're going to be doing next Tuesday. Then maybe I'll make some adjustments to the sky. But there's a couple key things that I want to emphasize as you work on your sky before I go. It's going to feel a little weird having the sky so light. The colors in the sky really are very very light, and if you go too dark, then what you're going to mess up if you go too dark in the sky is the silhouette effect created on Thor himself here. So Thor is in a silhouette and he's being backlit from the sun, from the sunset. And so if you have to keep the sky really light. Okay, so just keep that in mind. This part of the sky that runs right through here in between the clouds is pure white in the reference photo. You can check the reference photo, and it's pure white that runs through here. So there should be no other colors other than white through that area. Use that to help gauge the values of your colors in the sky, but keep them really light. When we add the colors to the foreground and middle ground, as things get a little bit darker, the sky will balance out a bit. But because it's surrounded by all of the white, it can be a little misleading as to whether or not you have your values correct. So just know the sky really is this light, and you don't want to overdo it. The typical thing that happens is that in your head you think, oh, I really like when you look at the sky, you see those purples and you see those oranges and you see the yellows, and you want to like bring them out more, but the sky doesn't take up that much space of the overall image. So that brings down the importance level. And so the saturation isn't as important as it is everywhere else, in particular on Thor himself. So just keep those things in mind and don't make the sky too bold for the sake of making it bold, because you may regret it later on when we have the other elements put in. But anyways, that is going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for coming by and hanging out. Don't forget, the critique live stream is happening this Friday, so be sure to submit your artwork. I can't wait to see it. And yeah, I'll see you in a couple days. Actually, I'll see you tomorrow, kind of, because I'm going to do the monthly mastery video tomorrow, and that will be up on the website as soon as I finish it. I'll message everyone in Discord when that's ready. But anyways, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you Friday. Take care. Peace.